ladies and gentlemen, I have 7 o'clock. I call this meeting of the General Government and Public Safety Committee to order. I know attendance has been taken. If you'd rise with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Comments from citizens. Close that section. Public Safety, Police Department, activity reports in your packet.
Can I make one comment first?
Oh, sure, yeah.
In deference to us older people, when you guys jump up and say the pledge, you should go a little slower.
That should be as may arise.
But I figured that was the appropriate time.
Duly noted. Activity report, any questions? Bob, is there anything you want to point out?
The only thing I've got that is not there, if you did the numbers or whatever, we are still seeing an increase. We are up over 23% from this time last year. Again, I can't answer that question as to why. Lieutenant Cribs came in this morning for a little bit, and he and I were discussing it, and we did the numbers, and we both about fell over. Because 23% is significant when it comes to call for service. So,
Is it the normal trend as it gets colder, they go down?
yes. Normal trend is typically in the wintertime, the fact is my business slows down and his business speeds up.
Right.
Typically. So we'll see if that holds. Sure. We'll see. I'll take it.
That's normal.
Yeah, that's normal.
Any questions or comments from? Moving on to other, anti-tethering.
I made some revisions to the previous ordinances in the packet. Everything in bold is new. You all had a chance to look it over. This is something we started talking about in July, maybe. So don't want it to get lost.
I have a few questions
All right.
on it. Why is it worse for an animal to be in a yard than it is when there's a wind advisory or otherwise, or heat advisory, than it is for them to be out there on tether in that same kind of weather? Because there's no penalties for them being out there in a fence yard.
That's a very good point.
Not that I think it's a problem for dogs to be out there in the cold or the heat, because before we allow them into our houses, they roam free anyway. Some dogs it's more of a problem for them, others, especially short-haired dogs.
Right.
I think that is a remnant of when we were trying to find a way to build some controls into it. Because, you know, when you look at the issues that have come up that we have been unable to address that are true neglect, that addresses it. Does it tie our hands in other areas? It might. Is it too restrictive for some breeds? Yes. But how do we have the ability to address the issues of dogs that are left outside, that are not outdoor dogs, the breeds?
Now, well, I understand
that are
that.
in,
What I'm concerned about is the dogs that are outdoor dogs that don't come in regardless.
It's been our struggle with this, and that's why it's taken us this long, is trying to find that balance.
Right.
But so in some of those situations, those dogs are hunting dogs. That's what we had talked about a lot of times. And so I feel like the next section helps with that because those dogs are in their training.
But we had a
so it
dog
doesn't
that never
prohibit
came
that.
in, and you couldn't bring him in. And I built him a dog house, he wouldn't sleep in it. He'd sleep beside it. Never, I mean, you couldn't get him into that dog house without literally dragging him and pushing him in there, and he was out as fast as you let go.
I think the section actually had temperatures in it, and I took those out after our conversations. And I think it actually said without adequate shelter. And I took that out because I think that was a concern, for some people, that the dogs could still be outside during the wind, heat or wind chill advisory or watch and warning, so I'm happy to do whatever the board
Don, what you
wants.
said is correct, but you had shelter there. It was the dog's option whether he wanted to go in or not. It's his fault. But some people don't give an animal maybe the opportunity to have something. But
Yeah, but if you know that, then why would
you
you?
just, it didn't have a very, you know, your dog didn't want.
Do you have a comment?
With all due respect, Mr. Foreman, not all dogs are gonna be like that.
I
There might
understand
be an exception, because the majority of animals that I've seen, you know, and I think it, out in the fenced-in yard, at least they can get themselves away out of the wind. But if they're attached to a chain and they have no way to get out of that wind or out of that rain or something, you know, I think those are the ones that are falling in the cracks.
I mean, my concern though is the person who has a dog that's an outdoor dog and strictly an outdoor dog, and that now you're penalizing them by writing something too restrictive. My other concern, I mean, I see a no-choke type collar. I'm not sure what that is. Of course, our dog ran free. We were out in the country, so it didn't matter.
When tethering a choke collar is the bad thing. And if your dog's run free, control, that's a whole different issue.
So we have to put a harness on them instead of a collar?
No, just not one that
No, you put-
chokes, that tightens on them if they pull on
You
the
got the one that
tether.
pulls tight, you tie it.
Oh,
Like a chain.
It's a
Because if
slip,
they
it's a
get-
slip one, you know.
It's
It
if they get
slips itself.
spooked,
Right,
if
Kinda
they're
like you throw it
spooked on the
on a chain.
tether
right.
and they run and the tether grabs them, it's bad enough with just a regular collar. It's a lot worse with the choke collar.
Okay,
That's,
all right. I don't have a problem with that.
I think that, we've talked about this a lot. We spent a lot of time on this, and I think we've done a lot of due diligence. It boils down to one thing. There's common sense that has to prevail, and there's some people that have none of it. And they unfortunately own animals and have children and other things that are living. And so at some point, we have to decide where's the middle ground and move on with it. And we beat this, and I've been as patient as I can be of us not getting something adopted and done versus spending more of our time on it. And I wasn't at all in a rush at all to do something that would not be beneficial to both parties. But we're gonna have to rely, it says right here, it should be allowed to tether any animal except under these following restrictions. The animal's got to provide adequate food, water, and shelter. And the common sense of the conditions of the temperature outside. If your livestock gets warned that you shouldn't, you gotta watch livestock outside, it would only be common sense that your dog would fall into those, or your cats or anything. So to me, we have to boil down our code enforcement people, which I have a huge respect for and confidence in, are going to take a situation where an animal is in dire straits or is not being properly taken care of. We can write manuals and try to cover everything, but people are still going to not do what they're supposed to, and we're gonna have to intervene. And I think that we do a pretty good job of that. I think in Columbia, you know, they have a lot more, there's a lot more to take care of and less people, right? I think here we do a pretty adequate job through the police department and with them, and then us having an animal control officer that's an ordinance officer as well. We have the ability, I think, to enforce it in codes that are here. And so, we just need to, I think, at some point decide, are we gonna change another paragraph for another sentence? And at that point, what matter is that gonna really matter? Because somebody's gonna do something different than that at some point, and we're gonna have to address it. And that's gonna have to be us enforcing what's there. But we've talked about this. This is only about the sixth time it's been in front of us in some variation. And we've had a lot of feedback, there's a lot of concern, and I'm an animal lover. I don't have a dog, because I grew up on a farm with dogs and, you know, that thing, but I have nothing at all against a dog at all, unless it's barking, I can't sleep. And then I got a problem. It's a 311 call, I think you call it now. It's not an emergency, but it is to me. But so you see what I'm saying? I just think we spend a lot of time on these things, and I think you're exactly right, Don. There's little nuances that got to be interpreted, but I think in the general goodwill of us trying to put this together, I think we're getting there. And I don't know what more we can do to make it, both sides would be completely happy. We've had lawyers here that on the dog side of it, and Susan's had those folks here. They made their points, I think good points, very good points, well represented. But I think at some point, we've got to be able to just enforce what we got. Because I think what we have on the books will help us go to somebody's yard, if a dog's on a log chain, to go do something about that.
What we have on the books, there's nothing wrong with that right
Well, I think that it can be a chain, but it has to be an adequate chain for the size and breed of the dog. We've talked about that, right? To get away from the log chains. So, at what point does it become just completely manic for me, I guess is what I'm saying.
now. I have one question, actually, for Chief Bias.
Yes, sir.
You have this up on your screen?
No, but I read it this morning.
There's a section added to Part B that says a person is guilty of the ordinance violation of animal abuse when that person, and then the new part of it is knowingly fails to provide adequate care which results in substantial harm to the animal while having ownership or custody of an animal.
Okay.
You think back to the winter issues last year. Does this give you the need to address that portion of it?
I think the wording needs to be changed a little bit, because
It came from the state statute.
But knowingly,
that's state.
knowingly fails is a hard standard to prove.
And knowingly is difficult. Doesn't matter if it's a criminal case or murder.
Right. When it comes down to state statute, you may not have much choice.
I copied it directly from the state statute.
Right, if
The rest
that's
is
state
already-
statute, I mean, there's no way we can go any further than that.
But doesn't C give you reasonable remedy for that kind of situation? Because
Okay, show me see.
to enforce the section, the code enforcement officer and the police officer are empowered and instructed to enter upon any private premises except inside buildings
Yes.
thereon where they have reasonable cause to believe that there is a case of animal neglect or animal abuse. Any animal found upon such private premises that appears to be a neglected or abused animal shall be taken from the private premises. I
I'm
mean,
good with that.
doesn't that give you the power to reasonably look at that along with code or whoever's on duty and say, this is an issue, and that could even be a log chain.
The issue we had last year with the dogs was one of those ones that we didn't really have anything to do. And a lot of it's interpretation. I keep running to that word in the last 2 weeks a lot, interpretation.
The goal of us doing this should be to make it so the interpretation is clear.
Correct. And that's part of the problem, was it was not. That will, it does, but again, I may interpret that differently than what the prosecuting attorney does or another officer. I'll put it this way to you, I'll do whatever y'all want. I think that, I don't think there's anybody in this, on the board that would disagree with me that there are some people in this town that violate these laws. Some we don't know about, but some we do. There was a good happy medium, I think, where we're at, with the ones currently on your screens. And I think that's where we were trying to go. We didn't want to go to an extreme, and we didn't want to leave it light either. So I think it's a good happy medium.
We needed to do something more, but we didn't want to.
Right, make it
Penalize.
too restrictive or
Yes.
penalize anybody else. Yes.
But the B3, that just basically says, I can give you warning, I'm giving you warning, but the next time around,
Right, Right.
there's an issue.
and like I said, there has been some stuff added, and like I said, a lot of the state statute, so, I mean, we'll go with it. I mean, I talked to Sandy about it, she reread it this morning, and she's okay with it, so. Because she's the one who's gonna handle it the bigger share of the time.
Section 4-2 gives, there's B in there, but in A and in C, they absolutely enforce reasonableness in observing what's going on and being able to take action for use.
If
That's up to the law.
In the opinion of whoever's there at the point in time,
Mhm.
the fact is that there's something, I would not have had a problem, one. Last year, one of my officers wanted to say, okay, we're gonna take your dogs for the time being unless you take them inside. And if they did take the dogs and take them to the pound, at least that way we know they're more than safe. I wouldn't have a problem. This gives you a little more teeth, which is okay.
Any other questions or comments? Moving on to what I love the title, the foul ordinance.
It's a duck too.
Wait, can I interrupt for a minute? So what, did we just, are y'all just gonna vote on it, or is it gonna stay the same, or?
It will be presented at the regular Board of Aldermen meeting next week, for passages of ordinance as it was written in tonight's packet.
And the inclement weather, there's not going to be like a wind chill or a?
It says, that they cannot be tethered during any heat or wind chill advisory or watch or warning issued by the National Weather Service. But the part we took out were the temperatures. We had some specific temperatures in there, but we
Right.
eliminated that.
Now, what's this do for Toby that's on the log chain in the pen? Is that gonna help, is there anything in there that's gonna help him?
Yeah, once it is, passed, then, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because it does say at no time may any logging chain, tow chain, or similar device be used as a.
Well, yesterday, I jog in the morning and in the evening, and I had jogged down Hickman, South Hickman, and there's a house at the end of Hickman on the left, and they have a pen outside the front, and it has trash bags lining all around it, and they put the dog out there during the day. It has no shelter. There's nothing, for that dog. And I stopped, there was 3 officers at IB Billiards, and I did stop and speak with, Officer Davenport was one of them, that was going to go and look into that. So will that be addressed as well for dogs that are put into pens to be out during the day?
They have to have adequate shelter, it says.
Okay.
In multiple
Susan, I think
places.
you probably know the ordinance better than they do, okay, or than I do, probably. And you know very well, you talked to Sandy this morning about it, I don't know
Yes.
whatever happened with that, so.
I wanted to make sure that she was aware of it.
Yeah, and.
Because
believe she
my
took care of
grandpa
it.
was
I'm
a
not sure what
police
she did.
officer, and I know that they get busy and things get, in everyday situations. So I was just, asking her to go
Like
by.
I said, I know Sandy was checked on it, but I don't know what the outcome was.
You gotta have shelter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's here, I mean,
And in those situations, what she would typically do is send a notice to the owner stating, you need to take care of this and give them a certain time frame. It's usually about a week to 10 days. And then, so we probably won't know anything for sure about that until that.
So it's gonna be a happy medium for everybody. Where,
That's so
see,
very
that's all I can ask for.
Thank you.
And thank you also very much for your time. And you said that this will be voted on?
Monday.
next
Monday
Monday,
the 16th.
you dropped your head.
Yes, and I don't like cats, so I wouldn't miss it. Y'all have a wonderful
Thank
night. Yeah, thank you so very much.
So let's talk about chickens.
Let's talk about fowl. Let's talk about fowl.
He's illegal.
What kind of long chain can they be on?
I watched the video from the meeting that we discussed this the last time, which was October, and there was only, there was some wording change that Alderman Borman had suggested, so that's been changed. It's in section 1 on the last paragraph of the page, dealing with the lot size, and then the feet to the front line, and feet to the sideline had not been changed, and so that is now updated. So it's 60 feet from the front and 10 feet from the rear.
And how many fowl can they have? 6 total, is that correct?
6, with an area between 15,000 and 30,000 square feet, and 12 for 30,000 and over.
Okay, and and fowl, that's total, you can't have ducks or 12 and 12 fowl.
Right, it's foul
Yeah,
total. And I worded it exactly like you said. I listened to the video several
Mhm.
times. I worded it
Perfect.
exactly like you said.
Why is it only 10 feet from the property line? I mean, a 15,000 square foot lot is 100 by 150. I mean, it can be other configurations. But that size of a lot should have plenty of room to allow a 20 or 25 foot setback, I would think. And I know that if somebody wants to put chickens next to my yard, I just assume they'd be further away rather than closer. Rear yard setback is 25 feet, that sounds like a good number to me.
basically them pinning them in, they've got this much space in their lot to put it in, come on.
No, at 150 foot by 100 foot, 10 foot gives you 90 foot, 25 foot still gives you 50 foot in there. It gives you plenty of room.
We're already being restrictive, telling them where they gotta put it in some general realm anyways.
I don't care. I'm fine with not having any chickens at all.
Well,
But I do think that it ought to be more than 10 feet. Because chickens stink.
Sorry.
they do.
Yes, they do. You ever been in a chicken house? No.
And roosters are mean.
It says it has to be odor-free.
So this is,
Well, I realize that, but I'm gonna bet you that they ain't over free at 10 feet.
If the wind's right, they're not odor-free from 50 feet.
That's right.
The other question I have is somewhere in here, it talks about, can't remember where it is now. It says the chicken species. Are we talking about fowl or are we talking about chickens?
Well, what's it say?
It says there is no restriction on the chicken species.
I don't care if they're
Well,
rock out
well,
in the red.
because we put this Article B chickens. Article 5 is just chickens, and so this is just dealing with chickens.
Where is that? Okay, there. All right, but as far as I know, species is the wrong word. All chickens are basically from the same species. They're like dogs. There are different breeds.
Do you want to say type?
I'd say breeds.
Breeds?
Breeds.
That's fun. I mean,
But the other question I have, this is fowl, so you could have 12 turkeys?
6 total.
6.
You can have 6 chickens, or you can have 6 turkeys, or you can have 6 ducks.
or you can have,
You can have 12
6
if you have a
peacocks.
big
if you
enough.
got a big enough thing, you can have 12 turkeys.
Ooh, peacocks.
Or you can have 4 of each of
Don't
those
ever even
breeds.
think about
You
that.
have 4 ducks.
Because I'm gonna tell you, turkeys are a whole lot bigger than what chickens are. They ought to be cut in half.
You know what I'm more worried about?
Tethered or not tethered?
Turkey ought to be tethered around his neck.
I'm more worried about peacocks.
Yeah, peacocks is a big issue.
All right.
Well, peacock takes up more
Is a
square.
peacock considered an exotic animal? Because if it is, there's a separate section that deals with exotic animals.
They're used for farm animals.
So what? Useful?
They're
So-
used as farm animals.
so-
Move on, I think we got a lot
Let me
more
ask this
important
question.
stuff going
Let me
on.
ask this question, because next Monday, I don't wanna lose my mind in the meeting. We've talked about chicken and foghorn, leghorn, and species and breeds. I understand what you're saying, so I'm not trying to belittle that. So breeds is the change there. The 10-foot, here's the deal, we're splitting hairs, a 10-foot setback versus 20 or 25. The bottom line is, if you're a neighbor and the wind is right, you're gonna smell the chickens. Simple as that. So having chickens is gonna have that problem. We've went past that to have fowl. We've limited it at 15,000 square feet. I mean, 30,000, 15 to 30,000 square feet is a lot of property. And so the bottom line is, other than what we see here, what we brought up, is there anything else that we're gonna have to debate Monday night? Because I don't know if I'll have the ability to do it as the mayor. I had to resign already.
Over the foul ordinance?
Over the foul over animal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I wanna get some of this stuff moved on. We got some real things to be dealing with. Not that these aren't important, but, and I, like you, I don't need chickens, but people have them, and I keep them from going to that, you know.
I got a place they can go. I mean, they can move out in the country if they want chickens.
Well,
Perfectly fine with that.
but things have changed, so this is kind of where we're at today.
We still have to have a public hearing on this, so we're probably not even
Oh,
going to be passing it
no,
until
no,
January.
no. Public hearing on fowl or both?
Foul,
Oh, okay. Good. We get one or two, all right.
because it does change part of the zoning.
Any other comments? Moving on to the revising the cell phone reimbursement policy.
This was at a request of, police department. Their officers with this new system are required to use their cell phones, and so they're asking for reimbursement for police officers. It would be $20. The other change would be changing the police lieutenant to a $40 reimbursement instead of $20. This is stuff for this section.
How many people don't have a cell phone already that have unlimited minutes? If they have unlimited minutes, I'm not sure why it's necessary.
I don't think it's for calls, it's to receive a text message, isn't it?
It is required that they have a cell phone,
It's two-factor authentication.
because there's two-factor authentication with the computer system we currently have, so it is required that they have a cell phone. And you would be surprised how much communication is done on the cell phone versus the radio.
No, I wouldn't be, I understand that.
And, so,
And I understand them not wanting to carry two cell phones, one for work and one for personal.
My personal belief is if we require someone to have something to do their job, we need to at least have a consideration for it.
Yes.
But like Don, oh, shut up, I'm in the audience.
I mean,
You had a chance to speak.
I'd rather just give them a raise and say, we're gonna give you a raise for this much so that you take care of your cell phone. than
What's the
they-
cost difference between buying a cell phone for an officer instead of paying it?
I'm not gonna have my officers carry two cell phones. I'm not gonna do it. I did it in Hallsville for a year and a half. It is a pain in the butt.
I would
It's,
do
Up
that.
to-
I don't think we could do it for $20 a person.
I wouldn't
We
think
would
so.
be
It'd be a
looking
lot
at,
more on that.
we would be looking at, I mean, I would think a minimum of $50, but I'm pretty sure it'd be more than that.
I think it'd be closer to about 80 per, when I look back at other areas where I've had a company phone. So,
But you get the multi-person discount.
one of the things, and Heather, I think I mentioned this when we were going back and forth on the purchasing process, is if we have X number of people that we regularly expect to use their cell phone, we just set them up on a regular, they get a $20 check every month or whatever it would be. Versus, I mean, if you think of all the time that you put into managing the process, and we got to submit a form with the, one page of the bill and all that stuff, took all that out. It may be a benefit to saying, okay, right now we pay so much, but then we throw in all the time managing it and stuff. It might just be simpler to, if somebody is required to use a cell phone at any given point in a month, we would expect to give them $20 or $30.
Well, all officers.
So we could take that, I mean, just take that verification part out of it. I mean, the verification would be them providing their cell phone number. You're gonna know that they have a cell phone if they have to provide.
I mean, I don't know what the difference is, if how many people who could potentially use a cell phone in a given month are we not paying? You know, I'm talking department heads, everybody, when you look at that, if there's 30 people and each month we're paying 27 of them, we should just simplify the process and say, okay, you have a job that requires you to be available after hours and use yourself, potentially use your cell phone, we give you X dollars a month to use your personal cell phone as needed.
Okay, I'm gonna say this anyway, sorry. But Don's question is how many of them don't already have totally unlimited plans that it doesn't make any difference how many texts or phone calls you make?
I don't know, it's not a question we've asked them.
And that
But
it
if you
doesn't
require
matter.
it for your job,
If an
That- that's
employer
the
requires
difference,
you to
right.
have a piece of equipment available, technically they should provide it. We've said that with other equipment.
We-
While we're not asking people to carry two cell phones, I don't carry two cell phones.
I do.
That wasn't what he asked.
It's irrelevant, in my opinion. Sorry, Don, that is my opinion. I think it's irrelevant to whether people have unlimited text or calls.
The only people that are getting phone calls that are not on this list, if we add the police officers, is the fire department. And that's how they get notified. They get called out, but they do have radios. So are you guys relying on the radios or your text messages?
Man, the beat for some.
So you guys have.
I mean, the phone is good for looking at the address.
Sure.
Right.
You know,
The
you
data.
get mumble jumble going on, you can at least see
Yeah.
where you're going.
Uh-huh.
yeah, the police department, it's a requirement for them to even log in.
Right.
because as soon as they do the first part of their login, it texts them to say, here's your code.
Because you got to have the verification go sent to you so you can log in.
Right.
Get the process again, correct.
But I mean, it's a requirement that they have that to do their job. And so us saying that we aren't going to give them consideration to have that cell phone, I think is that, not fair. Any other, that'll be on the Monday.
And, are we okay with removing that verification part where they have to submit a copy of their bill to get reimbursed?
I would be, because we're not gonna pay the whole bill, correct? I mean,
No, we just pay.
A portion of it.
It's
So
$20 or
I
$40.
would, for accounting purposes and the paying of it, absolutely, I agree with
Okay.
that part of it, if we're gonna do it.
Just to let you know, if you all want to know what their cell phone number is and everything else, I've got a call-out list sitting over there with all their cell phones listed, so I mean, you know,
I don't-
I know what the numbers are that they have.
Right.
I suspect if you're gonna verify it and have them submit bills on it, that you're gonna spend more time on that than what,
Probably.
you just paying.
You're right.
Then the handful of people who may not get paid in a given month because they didn't use their cell phone, we're spending more time on that.
But if it's a requirement,
If it's a requirement, then it's even
For the PD, it would,
potential.
yeah,
We should just,
I agree.
you know.
we're not talking, this is gonna be thousands and thousands of dollars, we're talking.
Well, it's not an extra that they're asking for, it's a mandated need.
Right.
I mean, oh, hey, you get around that thing, they say that you take that out of your pocket.
Right.
And we're already challenged with, paying enough and in all the departments, let alone now, so we'll talk about it, I guess.
Okay. Moving on, fire department activity reports in your packet. Anything you want to point out, Danny?
Nope, I mean, it's a pretty busy month for a lot of natural gas leaks. But I think a lot of that is due to people firing up their
For the first-
furnaces.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, but it's pretty well leveled out by now. The big things, the trailer we had on fire out the sheds, whatever you call it now. Par for the course.
Got it. Any questions or comments on the fire department?
I'm working on the gear. The gear, we set up 2 dates to get measured, the 17th and the 22nd. And getting everybody together at one time just don't work anymore. So the 17th and the 22nd we're working on. I think we're only gonna do 14 sets for right now. Instead of the 22, so. I mean, a volunteer fire, sometimes you guys get back to days and this and that, so. We'll just do it this way first and see how it goes. And we'll go from there. It takes 3 months. That was him on the
I was
phone.
gonna ask you how it took to get the gear active measure.
3 months.
Any other for the fire department?
When are you filling bags for Christmas trees?
We're doing. I think we're doing the 19th. Is that on a Thursday?
Yeah,
That will be the day we're gonna.
the night before the tractor parade.
We got about 1,400. About 1,400 bags.
At what time?
I mean, we'll start right at 5, right at work. Get going.
Is the candy donated?
Just donated by the citizens of Centralia. I'd say, isn't that right, Heather? That's,
We do receive a lot of donations
Yeah.
that go towards it. It helps offset any costs.
we used to go around, door to door and stuff, and those don't work no more in today's age, so if they wanna keep it up, this is what we gotta do.
Okay, moving on to emergency management, outdoor warning siren replacement.
by the city of Centralia and the county emergency management for the placement of the 3 tornado sirens. The locations are a little different than what I had originally thought that they would be. I don't know, if you have a printed copy, you probably can see it, but you can see on their screens, it's the red triangles that are on the maps. The one at the high school I thought was. is
Same
that-
place, it's the same place where it's at now.
Is it, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
The other one on Wilson Street moved due to some, electrical need issues, and that was the easiest way to get it to where less work for our electric guys,
Okay.
so.
All right, so then it's in the same place it should be.
But the one at the park, I was remote from any house is what you can get.
That's okay.
That's
It's
okay.
an outdoor warning siren,
Right, and
so.
so these sirens are going to be longer, they'll be set off, the warning will be longer than the current sirens. And, I wish I had the map in here for you all to see, I thought we'd shown it before. The sirens that we currently have a very small radius, and so they're not reaching everybody in the town. With the placement of these 3 sirens, we're overlapping in some areas, which is good, and we can even reach a little bit outside of our city limits. So I think it's beneficial.
We still have several more left, don't we, the small ones scattered throughout those stores?
They will not be in use anymore, they will be taken down, and
It's just gonna be these
it'll
3.
be these
The
3.
3 will offer you more coverage than the 5 that we currently have operational.
At least that's the idea.
It's just due to the fact of technology, the way they've redone it, the technology allows it to reach further and the noise to be louder.
So you don't want
By
to
3
be right
sirens
next
versus
to it.
5.
You'll be able to.
Actually, we have 6
Safety
for one of
You'll
those.
be able to hear them
Country
everywhere.
Club Estates.
Yeah,
They're that
that's the
loud, huh?
plan, that's the plan. And
Yeah.
I did actually touch base with the superintendent to let him know that we were looking to move forward with this, especially since these sirens are gonna last longer, that even the test will be longer. Just so there aren't any panicked kids on that
It's
first
gonna be
Wednesday
set off
whenever
with-
we set them off.
Right.
What it is with Joint taking these over, they're gonna run the full 3-minute test every first Wednesday of every month, you know, with weather or whatever. But so it will be, because currently, the gals over here in communications are the ones that set them off, and they'll set them off for about 30 seconds to shut them off. Well, now they're gonna run for the full 3-minute exercise.
Oh my God.
It looks like you have none,
But they're not even up yet.
Yeah,
none on the east side of Jefferson Street.
yeah,
Is there one on the east side?
the park, at the park.
Oh, it's a park, yeah, it's at the park, yeah,
It's at
that
the
would be on
park.
the east side, yeah, that would
I
cover
will,
it.
we'll have to vote on this, Monday night, just to sign the contract for Monday night, but, I'll try to find that map that'll show you the coverage area that was provided to us by County Emergency Management, so that you'll have that visual.
Any other comments or questions? Moving on to protective inspection. Anything?
No, the demo's complete, we're just waiting on we sent off the request for funds, so we can get paid and then get the funds.
Great. General government and finance, economic development. Our meeting notes from the chamber in your packet.
There's no chamber meeting this month, we'll have one starting in January. Tractor parade's coming up, the marketplace beforehand in the square.
Park board, the agenda in your packet. And meeting notes. Questions or comments? Cemetery report, I assume there is none. Same with the tree board.
Correct.
Library, meeting minutes are in your packet. Any questions? Moving on to the November financial statements. Anything you want to point out, Heather?
I don't believe they're in your packet, I think they're still working on those,
Oh, you're right.
they'll be in the next meeting.
Okay. Bills over $1,250.
what is the recycling that we pay to the county?
It's for picking up our recycling.
Oh, they pick it up for us?
Uh-huh, they come and pick it up.
Okay.
Not curbside, but the trash bin.
The trash bin, okay.
And then, oh, that's in the next one.
And what are the BAS runout fees?
So with our insurance, when we're switching to, the fully self-insured plan with MIRMA, we had to we had to have an agreement for our runout fees. So with your insurance, if you get services in December, a lot of times that isn't even billed out till January. So we have to pay for 3 months worth of runout fees to BAS to help pay for that. It does still fit in our budget because, so as we've been paying along with this MIRMA semi-self-insured plan, we have about $80,000 built up in our fund that we will receive back to the city once all of the claims are paid, and so that will help pay these runout fees as
I just didn't have any idea what it was.
well. Yeah.
Moving on, any other general government? Under other, we have police chief's monthly report. How's ramping up on the new RMS system?
We're making progress. I don't know how to grade that, but we're
Right.
making progress. There's still some little things that are nagging, so, but we're making progress.
Good. Any as may arise? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, and a second, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? We stand adjourned.
Does anybody need a break before we